wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
He's running for Louisiana Senate. Gary Chambers Jr.
Yes, welcome.
Peace, King.
What's good, brothers? How y'all?
How's it going?
Blessed,
Pushing.
black, and highly favored,
Now,
man.
you're running for Louisiana Senate. Now, the video that everybody seen was you smoking a little cannabis.
No doubt.
A little marijuana.
No doubt.
A little bit of weed.
But
No
let's go-
doubt.
Before that, you know, your story is so interesting to me because you were just a taxpaying citizen who got fed up with politics in your city, so you decided to be the change you want to see, and you know, you stood up at that was a school board meeting, right?
School board meeting.
Yeah, that's the one that first went viral.
Tiny.
Explain that meeting.
So we had a school that was named after Robert E. Lee in Baton Rouge, and I've got a 12-year-old daughter that's in the Baton Rouge school system, and she's on a track to potentially end up at that school. Not just me, but several of my brothers and friends in the community had kids that were in this school, and we didn't want our kids to have the name of a bigot on their high school diploma. We tried in 2016 to change the name and were unsuccessful, but we kept pushing the issue. And then when George Floyd happened, the country was in this bubbling point. We went back at it again. School board member Landis brought it, and we showed up at the meeting. Connie's in the meeting. Black woman sitting right next to her talking, and she's on the internet shopping. It pissed me off. And I went to the mic. Well, first I took a picture of Connie because I knew she was going to lie.
How you cut your shot? You can see it? That's
Well,
it?
you know, the way the room was set up because of COVID, they kind of had people rounded about people. And a friend of mine actually said, I think the lady's shopping, you know? And so I just went behind and took a picture.
What was she shopping? What was she shopping for?
Dresses. She was literally shopping for dresses while we were talking about the institutional racism that existed in our school system. And Baton Rouge has a school system that's 80% black, right? And here's this middle-aged white woman who just doesn't give a damn about what we're talking about. And so I did what I do.
JCPenney shopping. I
All up
understand.
there, you know. And so I did what I do and confront the truth about what was happening, and then gave historical context to what the problem was with Robert E. Lee and why his name shouldn't be on a school. It went viral for whatever the reason was, and I'm thankful for it because as someone who's been advocating in the community, the hardest part is getting the rest of the country to hear what's going on in your backyard.
Absolutely.
We won that night. The name is now Liberty High School. I would have rather PBS Pinchback High School. There are no high schools in Baton Rouge named after black people.
Wow.
None.
Did you ever have like any dreams of being in politics or being some type of civil
Yeah, what
rights
did you do
activist?
before this?
So I own a media company, a black-owned media company in Baton Rouge, and really I had no political aspirations because I'm a high school graduate, somebody who started a business with his friends and decided that I wanted to push the issues around making money. What I recognized, there was a brother named Lamar Johnson in Baton Rouge who a few weeks before Sandra Bland, he was said to have hung himself in parish prison. I had this platform. I wrote a column about it. 40,000 people read it. In Baton Rouge, that's a big deal. And a few months later, our district attorney there, Hilla Moore, attempted to do this misdemeanor jail, which basically was rounding up people who had simple traffic violations and arresting them for that, right? We had 140,000 people with those in Baton Rouge. And so I thought that if you can't handle what happened with Lamar Johnson in parish prison, then you don't need to open a temporary jail to cart people in on. And so I wrote columns about that. People read it, showed up at a meeting. A couple of other young black men showed up at the meeting, and we killed it. And that was kind of like the beginning of my journey into advocacy. It was because there was an issue in my community. I had a platform. I just spoke up. I didn't know the overall impact would be that we would never have a misdemeanor jail in Baton Rouge again, but I never stopped going to city council meetings.
Wow.
Man, that shows the importance of the city council meetings and the school board meetings and stuff
talk about
like that.
the importance of that, because a lot of us don't go to those council meetings. We ain't got enough time. We be working. We're tired. We're sleepy.
Me too. I think that is the easy answer to why we don't do it. But what I realize is every one of us is paying taxes every day, right? And so when you give into the government, if you opting not to be a part of the process, you're allowing people to decide with your money to make decisions that are contrary to your beliefs. For me, if you mad about the potholes in your neighborhood, that's your city council member. If you mad about, the lack of investment in your school system, that's your school board member. A lot of us don't even understand the different layers of government and what everybody does. And I know that because in running for office, people will ask you about, well, this is this issue. And it's like, I have no control over that. We got to learn the institutions and structures around us and then mobilize them to be powerful for us.
Wow. Now, when you decided, okay, I'm going to run for office?
Run for Senate.
Like what made, but after the school board meeting, what prompted that?
Well, when Cedric Richmond took the job with President Biden,
Salute to Cedric.
I had a platform and an opportunity, and really people around the country and around Louisiana asked me to run. I wasn't looking at that at all. I was looking at this U.S. Senate race. We decided to run for Congress because it was like, this is an opportunity we didn't think was going to open up. Cedric went and took the job. Let's go for it. I'm proud of the race we ran. We raised $500,000 in a 3-month period. That's amazing for a candidate like me in that race. We came within 1,500 votes of winning that election with a grassroots people power movement. And to put that into perspective, the opposition raised millions of dollars and spent their first TV buy was 6 figures, right?
Wow.
We spent $30,000 on TV and came within 1,500 votes.
Wow.
Right? Because of the people power that we built on the ground. This time around, we have a deeper understanding of the science and the art of politics, that we do need to be in the media spaces, so we got to raise the capital to do that. But we know that we know how to touch the communities and people in the state of Louisiana in a way that other people don't.
People would ask, two things. Well, what do you know about politics? And two, what do you need to know about politics to run?
I think what I know about politics is that its job is to serve the people. To put it in the simplest definition, why do people, not just me, but other people like me, need to run? Because I think that we have seen the results of Ivy League, and it's no shot at people who have Ivy League degrees, but we have seen the results of PhDs in Ivy Leagues going down to D.C., going to a state capital, and the results are not producing a harvest for the people that go out and cast their ballot. And so we need regular people. I've seen Momo fix more problems than I've seen people fix in the U.S. Senate.
That's right.
With less resources. And so we need people who have the capacity and the understanding to know we got to make tough decisions and do the things that we got to do to help people.
It's something about, coming from the bottom. When you come from the bottom, it seems like you're able to have a wider view of everything. But when you're at the top, for some reason, even though you should be able to see a lot more clearer and see a lot more wider, you don't, it seems.
I think it's because our focus gets linear, right? When the higher you get, the more focused you are on a particular outcome. When you're in the bottom, you're trying to figure it all out. You're trying to figure what is your way in, and so you have the viewpoint to look at everything. Once you're at the top, your focus is on producing results in that area, and so you don't really expand your view out of that. And I think that's why it's important to stay connected to people at every level of the chain. We need people that are prosperous and making millions and billions of dollars. But those people also have to have some level of connectivity back to the communities they come from, because otherwise, how does one serve the other?
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, because you named a couple of examples. When did Gary Chambers Jr. first realize, just in life, that your voice could actually change something?
So I'm an ordained minister and grew up in the church deeply, and always knew that at some point God would use my voice to speak to his people. I'd use this as my pulpit, basically. My campaign slogan is do good and seek justice, which is Isaiah 1:17. Do good, seek justice, help the widow, the orphan, the oppressed, and the poor. I live by that. And this is really just an opportunity for me every time to live out my faith. That when we talk about the issues that we face as a society, Jesus was about healing the sick, right? And if he came and healed the sick, then why isn't Medicare for all good for us? If that was a structure of our faith that we believe he could redeem, then we also have to have the knowledge to understand that medicine works, science works, and if we're paying into a system, the church get 10% of the money from some of the people, the government get 30% of the money from all the people. They should be producing solutions in healthcare for the people of this country.
Boy, Gary, you've been cheating, man. You an ordained minister and you got a background in media. They ain't even see you coming.
No.
Now, you recently went viral for, you announced that you were running for Louisiana Senate and you were smoking some weed.
No doubt.
Talk about that.
Well, I think that we wanted to cut through the noise. I do smoke cannabis. It's not something that should be controversial anymore. 68% of people in Louisiana believe that cannabis should be legalized recreationally. And in order to make sure that we destigmatize a lot of these things, people who have platform influence, whatever that is, they need to use that platform and influence to steer a conversation. It worked. It did cut through the noise, and it got us to talk about the real issues around Louisiana and cannabis. You got folks in Angola Penitentiary right now who are serving what amounts to a life sentence for basically simple possession of marijuana. That's wrong. While people in California, Illinois, and other places, New York is going to come online, people going to make millions of dollars, but you got folks still sitting in jail for it. That's not right.
You know, I saw that video and I said, man, Gary is such a threat to people. They might try to lock him up for smoking the weed on the video.
I went to the most legal place in Louisiana you could go to do it, and help pass the policies in New Orleans last August. Shout out to City Council President Helena Moreno, who brought a piece of legislation that basically, if the police stop you in New Orleans and give you the citation, that it's automatically pardoned by the city council. So that's a new legislation that they use to work around the state policies that basically say you can't have it.
Now, somebody told me that you were supposed to say something in the video, but you got so high that you couldn't even record it after.
Nah, man. We always ready. Always ready.
Now, so we clearly know where these social media ideas are coming from. Like, you know, you got a background in media.
No doubt. And I got a brilliant videographer that goes with me everywhere I go, Erwin Marino, and we've been working together for years kind of creating content. And so and truthfully, we didn't even tell everybody on my team about it. It was me, Erwin, the comms team, Eric Sanchez. We had a conversation, and that was it. I made a decision because I knew that there were people on my staff that would say, that's too far, we shouldn't do that. But I'm a person who's led by what's right, and I think it was right.
You know, you also just you did something that I did some years ago, but they wouldn't let me air it on television. You burned the Confederate flag. You know, I'm from South Carolina, so after that devil Dylan Roof, murdered the Emanuel 9. You know, he was holding up the Confederate flag and his pictures and everything, and then, Bree Newsom scaled the pole to bring the flag down. So I actually took the flag and shredded it on one of my talk shows back in the day on MTV, but they wouldn't let it air. Like, we shredded it, threw it up as confetti and everything, but you actually burned it in your video.
Set it on fire.
Wow. What prompted that?
Eric on my team came to me and said that he thought we should build a conversation around race in America and we should burn the Confederate flag. As soon as he said it, I said, yeah, because everything we are dealing with in the American government right now that is inequitable is rooted in the Confederacy. We watching people right now in every state in the South attempt to disenfranchise black voters. I live in a House district that is attempting, the legislature is attempting to gerrymander right now to put the community I've lived in my whole life in a district that connects to a community that has no similarities between each other, right? And all of it's rooted in the heritage of bigotry and racism. It's been since 1873. And paint this picture now. 1873, you have PBS Pinchback, who is a black man elected to the United States Senate. He's never seated, okay? Prior to that, he's the president of the Louisiana State Senate. Black folk run around here talking about not voting and not participating in the process, when one of the first things we did, it wasn't just go build businesses. It was elect a ton of black folks to state legislatures in South Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana. Louisiana had all these black men there. We had Oscar Dunn was the lieutenant governor of Louisiana, dark-skinned black man, right? And this image was shown to all of these people in the state of Louisiana. And I post this, whenever I go live, I have an image behind me of these men. And you end up with a government that then builds a litany of structures to prevent that image from ever existing. It is 100 years. PBS Pinchback becomes the governor of Louisiana because Oscar Dunn dies. The governor is removed from office. Pinchback becomes the governor. He's the governor for like 30 days. It's 100 years before Douglas Wilder becomes the governor of Virginia.
Wow.
When we talk about black history, these people were methodical. Once they recognized the power of the black vote immediately after emancipation, they did everything they could to strip us of our power. And now we just giving it away. We 50% of us showing up. Ain't 50% of us paying the taxes. And so when you talk about burning the Confederate flag, for me, it's like, until we burn the remnants of the Confederacy from every piece of legislation that's in this government, we're going to continue to have problems. Whether you look at cannabis legislation, rooted in racism. You look at the housing issues we have, rooted in racism and redlining. You look at the banking issues we have, rooted in racism and not giving us loans from the GI Bill and all of those things. Every system and structure of this country was designed around racist policies to prevent equity. Even right now, talking about a border wall, because certain people in this country feel like, oh, they're going to come and take our jobs, when we don't even have all the jobs in the country field.
You know, what you're talking about, even with burning the flag, is what I like to call the decrackification of America. And I liken it to the denazification in Germany, because we're still a country that still celebrates the Confederacy. So essentially, we're celebrating white supremacy. We're celebrating oppression, like everything from Robert E. Lee schools named after him, and highways, or Strom Thurmond highways, or the Confederate flag, all of that. So yes, you got to get rid of all of that imagery,
because substance and symbolism matter, right? The symbols. Tell me why you even put up Robert E. Lee schools in the 40s and 50s, not right after he died. Right? You wait a decade because you use it as a fear tactic against people in our community. And then you had black folks going to schools with people waving Confederate flags until the early 2000s.
That's right. Crazy.
Like literally there are schools in Louisiana that until the last decade had separated proms. Like, this is America today.
Yeah.
I think that certain people, when you live in certain zip codes in certain parts of the country, you get to walk around and pretend that shit ain't real.
That's right.
And it is.
That's right. Even when you talk about imagery and symbolism, you think about a movie like Birth of a Nation in 1915. There's a scene where they show all of these black elected officials just basically being ratchet as hell, barefoot, drinking whiskey, eating fried chicken all crazy, because they wanted to show the image of this is what happens if you vote black people in the office.
And they do it every day. They do it every day in the imagery that they portray of us. I grew up in North Baton Rouge. I grew up middle class black. I don't have the story of people robbing and stealing and killing in my neighborhood. And my neighborhood was 100% black, right? But we don't tell those stories when we talk about black communities. And they're in every city in this country, they exist. But all we talk about is the zip codes where the problems are. But the zip codes where the problems are exist because you won't deal with the structural issues in communities.
So when you're elected to Louisiana Senate, what is your...
I like how you said that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like
absolutely.
When you're elected.
What's the first thing that you're going to do? What's the first thing that you want to do, I should say?
Well, one of the first things is to really figure out how do we move the economy forward to work for working class people. If we give people the ability to feed their family, I trust the genius of the human capacity that they can produce for themselves a better outcome. I think we also have to look at the government structures that exist. I thought Biden's Build Back Better plan was something that would have helped a lot of people. We got to figure out how do you structure policy and get it passed. You got to extend the margins in the Senate. Having somebody like me increases the ability to decrease the power of somebody like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. And so the election of me here, Charles Booker, Mandela Barnes, Val Demings, all of these people is critically important, because that is the only way we end up in the capacity to make sure that our voices aren't muted in the Senate. There have only been 11 people, black folks, in the history of this country to serve in the U.S. Senate. You have the capacity to send 4 or 5 more in November. And so regardless of how pissed off you are with Biden or what you feel about the administration isn't doing, you have the capacity to enhance the checks and balances right now by sending people there that can help us pass something.
Now, people would say on a local level, right, when it comes to some of the things that you name, whether it's cannabis, right, or, cannabis, they say, okay, we'll give certain people licenses, but then you need liquid. And most of our people don't have the liquid for it. So we have to partner up with, a white person that has the liquid. So it's really not our business. Or you talk about real estate, and they say, okay, where, you could build in these places, but to build in these places is not just black people building these places. So what happens is a lot of the white people that come in there and they develop in those places. So we really have nothing. So as local, how are you going to help the people locally to make sure that they can have businesses, that they can create generational wealth, and that they can have better school systems? How do you plan on attacking that?
Well, I think one of the major things, a U.S. Senator has a whole lot of influence and power, right? And to be able to leverage the resources that you're going to bring into the state to make sure that when those policies come in, they're equitable. Once cannabis is legalized around the country, there's going to be federal subsidies for that. There's going to be federal resources attached to that. How do we build those policies to ensure that whatever those subsidies are attached to an equitable premise? That we ensure that if you're going to get this money, you got to commit X amount of dollars to be spent with black and minority businesses. You have to commit to how these partnerships are structured, that not minority partners, that they need to be majority partners on these things, and figure out the way that we build that equity. And then really using the bully pulpit. One of the most powerful things that a legislator can do is use their voice. And a lot of times they're scared to speak out on certain issues. They don't want to offend nobody. I don't really care about pissing people off. I care about getting stuff done. And so if it means that I upset you in order to get you to do what needs to be done legislatively, then I'm going to call you out and do that.
And committing to freeing all of those people those brothers and sisters that locked up for weed all over the country.
President Biden needs to do everything in his power at this point to do good on the things he said in the campaign trail. Decriminalizing cannabis.
Legalizing it, though.
What he committed to is decriminalize. So for me, I fully support legalizing, but at least do what you said you was going to do.
Absolutely.
You know?
One thing you mentioned about all of these Senate seats that are up for grabs, this year. All these people that's running for Senate. The problem I have with Democrats is they don't speak out against the senators that are holding up progress, like the cinemas and the mansions, and they're not speaking up for the people who are running for these Senate seats that could probably, tip the balance of power. So you look at Senator John Kennedy, who you're running against. He already got the endorsement of Trump, right? Well, you're trying to unseat him. Why do you think, Democrats aren't speaking up for people like you? Because you need that kind of power back.
We do. We actually need the Democratic Party in the state of Louisiana right now to make sure we're the only candidate in the race. We know we've raised more money than everybody else. We've clearly built a national conversation. The Democratic Senate Central Committee should join us and prioritize Louisiana. Louisiana is a state of 4 million people. That's Houston. Okay? If the DNC can't invest in Louisiana and flip Louisiana, fold the tent up and close the whole thing up. Close the whole thing up. Because if you can tell me that you can flip Texas, but you can't get Louisiana, and Louisiana has a Democrat as governor, it's because you're not making that investment. And so for me, I think that what we're trying to do is show what is a new age of politics. That you can be free in your ideology and your thought process. You can tell the truth. You can represent the people, and you can look good while you do so. That you don't have to be stale and in a box. None of my content is ever going to be like cookie cutter stuff. We intend to shock your senses. I'm not going to apologize for that, because the only way I'm going to get you to pay attention to the state that's ranked 50th in the nation is if I shock your senses. And if that gets you to pay attention to the fact that I live in a state that's 50th in crime, 47th in the economy, 49th in the environment, 46th in healthcare, to say that that's a place that we need to make investment, then I'm gonna keep doing it all year long.
Because it makes no sense, right? Even if they don't want to speak out against the mansions and cinemas and run people against them, at least speak up for the people that are running.
Because in theory, by speaking for somebody, you are making clear your position anyway.
That's right.
Right? So speak up for the people who carry the voice of the people.
That's right. You think this old establishment, that is Democrats, will accept somebody like a Gary Chambers Jr.?
I don't really look for acceptance. I get elected, they ain't got no choice. I'm there. And my vote, I'm going to use that the way that I believe that it's supposed to be used to help the people of my state.
What about Cedric? Is Cedric showing up for you?
Me and Cedric
we got to put some pressure on him if need be now.
Me and Cedric have a decent enough relationship. I don't know if he was thrilled that I ran against Troy, but Troy and I, who's the new Congressman Troy Carter, we have a great relationship. We built that through the campaign trail. I've got a great deal of respect for Cedric. He's limited in his capacity because he works for the White House, but there are people who I hope that he can nod his head to and say, you know what, I think the brother's the right person to be in this position. And I think that whatever the people of Louisiana do, we have to ask ourselves, especially black folk, how long are we going to help elect people who continue to disappoint us? Right now we're dealing with the Ronald Greene case in Louisiana, black man killed by Louisiana State Police, text messages found by Governor John Bell Edwards to have known the details of what happened to this brother. We need to ensure that when we put our vote behind somebody, Democrat, Republican, whatever you are, that you deliver for us.
That's right.
And the capacity of those conversations has to evolve in a way that produces real change.
And what I like about you, man, first of all, Democrats' messaging sucks.
Horrible.
Yours is very clear.
You know why? They don't understand where the pulse of the people is.
That's right.
They spend so much time in these boxes debating policy, and that is the job, okay? That you are not in touch with the community in a way. There's no other politician in America that would have smoked weed in a video or burned the Confederate flag in the first two ads that they did.
That's right.
Yet both of those, we raised 6 figures yesterday.
Wow.
6 figures yesterday from that flag. Not because I don't believe the majority of people are racist. And the majority of people want us to move beyond that. But we allow a certain group of people to dominate the conversation. And Dr. King told us about the white moderate.
That's right.
All right? That they were almost as bad as the Ku Klux Klaner. And so we allow those people to steal too much of the conversation, and that's why we don't produce no change.
How can people donate? Because you talk about donating. How can people donate?
Chambersforlouisiana.com.
Yes, sir.
I'm definitely donating. I'm 100% donating.
And I appreciate that because it is a winnable race. The truth is, if black folk and brown folk and white folk in Louisiana could elect John Bell Edwards twice, 2015 and 2019, then that is proof a Democrat can win in this state. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, in the second blackest state in America, why is it that there's been 100 years since a black person has been elected statewide in that state? And we need to do everything in our power this year to redeem what is wrong in that. And I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to promise you or anybody else that I'm never going to make a mistake. I'm never going to say something I shouldn't have said or step out of line. But what I will promise is that I'll be accountable to the people and show up about the issues that I say I'm going to show up for.
Do you need white people to vote for you to win?
Absolutely. We let me say this. We need all people to vote for us. But the truth is, John Kennedy was elected with 536,000 votes. There are 1.2 million black folks in Louisiana.
How many votes was it?
536,000 votes is how much John Kennedy was elected with. There are 1.2 million black people in Louisiana.
Wow.
That can
More
vote.
of us
That can vote.
that can vote.
Okay.
900,000 of them are registered. We got another 300,000-400,000 that we can get registered, that can get active. One thing that we know this campaign has done is ignite young people in our state. We intend to build a grassroots movement, door knocking, phone banking, calling people and reaching out to people. This first quarter for me is critical for us to get all over the country so that we can raise the money so that we can go back to the state and do the work of flipping the state.
Why do you think it's time for Senator John Kennedy to be out of office? What are the things he's doing that's hurting us?
Man, dude said in his re-election announcement video, literally, direct quote, "I'll never let you down. I'd rather drink weed, killer." What the hell does that mean?
Goodness gracious.
I'm like, what? You need some ice with that? Because it's actually doing nothing to produce for the people of our state. He's been elected almost as long as I've been alive. The state ranks 50th in the nation. If you want to get an example of Republican policies failing, look at Louisiana. If it were not for us electing a Democrat, we wouldn't have health care expansion in Louisiana, and thousands of people in our state wouldn't have health care coverage right now. John Kennedy and them don't care about that because at the end of the day, they know the majority of the people that they support have health care.
Yeah.
Have the resources. And so they don't care if disenfranchised people don't have these things. And John Kennedy ain't showing up at Southern University, Grambling, Dillard, Xavier, none of those schools because he does not care. He does not feel like he needs them. He does not, I've never seen this man in my community. Ever. And let me tell you something. We got 2 Republican senators. I ain't no big Bill Cassidy fan, but he's definitely night and day difference from Kennedy. And so he's 70. He's out of touch. It's time to send him home. Some people are so committed. And this is the other thing. He used to be a Democrat. Okay? In the early 2000s, pre-Obama, he was a Democrat. Supported John Kerry in 2004 and ran for the U.S. Senate as a Democrat. Barack Obama comes on the scene. Whole bunch of Democrats in Louisiana switch parties. Now, I want no black man at the head of what they're doing. Switch party, and he switched his accent. He went from talking like me and you to talking with a drawl. It's wild.
It's interesting to me, man, because like I said, being from South Carolina, a lot of times it's habits that a lot of these people just end up back into these seats, right? Lindsey Graham is probably just a habit because those 300,000, 400,000, maybe 500,000 people go out there and vote, but we stay home.
Right.
So when I saw what Stacey Abrams did in Georgia, I'm like, man, I think we can change things in these southern places, man.
The South is where it's at. I have this logic of a new black South, and I need y'all to go ahead and switch your residency to a southern state. I know you're going to do your business in New York, but the best capacity for black people in America to flip political power and financial power is by moving back to the South.
How much was 60% of all black people in America?
60% of black folks live in the South, right? We are never going to flip California. We never going to flip New York. There's 4 million people in Louisiana. If another 400,000 black folks move to that state, we increase the voting population. When you talk about billionaires, and we love to talk about black wealth and all the money we get, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Oprah, Jordan, all those billionaires, I love the fact that they're billionaires. But you know what the government has every year? In Louisiana, that's a $30 billion a year budget that we get to put a governor over to make decisions about $30 billion a year that we could do in 6 or 7 states, right? You go from 3 black U.S. senators, and you can count Tim Scott out, because he don't really vote for nothing with us. So you can go from 3 black U.S. senators to potentially 7, 8 black U.S. senators, potentially 16 if you go 8 states where we get 2 black senators in both of those. That's a block of the U.S. Senate. When you talk about trillions of dollars of impact that you get to influence, it is a hard task that we have put on the Cory Booker and Raphael Warnock, Senators Booker and Warnock, because that's two black folk in a room with 80 plus other people that are not people of color, right? And we are asking them to make those people give a damn about us. We need to send them some reinforcements. And we do that by being strategic. Everybody ain't gonna move to the South. I understand that. I'm not asking everybody to move to the South. But if you can send your kids to college in the South and tell your kids start their family in the South, if those who have resources can live in multiple places, buy you a property and vote in the South. Ask this question. Who does Jay-Z and Beyonce have more influence over? Gavin Newsom in California or John Bel Edwards or Kay Ivey in Louisiana and Alabama? John Bel Edwards, Kay Ivey gonna lose their mind if the Queen calls.
That's right.
You
that's
know,
right.
Gavin Newsom talking to popular people all the time because he's the governor of California, 60 million people in his state.
I think they got property in Louisiana too, if I'm not mistaken.
There was some property in New Orleans that I think they recently sold the property.
Okay.
Actually.
I think that's the one that burned down at one time.
Yeah.
But even with that, like donate some finances. I mean, look how close Jamie Harrison came to unseating.
We can do this,
Lindsey
man.
Graham.
What we need is Black America to stand up in a way that is substantial for us financially, that gives us the power to go win this. We know that we can mobilize the people. We just got to have the resource to do it. And no black candidate. Cleo Fields in Louisiana was the last black person in 1996 to have a real shot at running against somebody statewide. We got that opportunity if we got the resources.
Yeah, I care about local politics way more than I do federal politics.
It's where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm. So where can they donate to your campaign?
Yeah, tell us again.
ChambersForLouisiana.com. You can follow us on all the social medias at Gary Chambers Jr.
I'm going to make a donation now. And tell us the other people who are running. I know you said...
You have Malcolm Kenyatta in Pennsylvania. You have Val Demings in Florida. You have Charles Booker in Kentucky. You have... Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin. All of these people are running for the U.S. Senate right now, and if they have the financial support and the capacity, they can win. And also, Senator Warnock is running for re-election, and Stacey Abrams is running for the governor of Georgia, and we need to do everything we can to support those people to get them there.
Why should folks in Louisiana vote for you, man?
I think folks in Louisiana should vote for me because my record proves that I'm going to show up for the people. You look at people's resume when you decide if they qualify for a job. My resume may not say that I have a PhD, but it does say that I have a PhD in showing up for the people in our community, producing real change. When they closed 2 hospitals in our community, we organized people, and now there's an emergency room in our community right now. When they tried to close a zoo and move an investment out of our community, we fought. Won that battle, and now there's a $300 million investment happening in the divested community. That's without me ever being elected and having a title, that we help build the wave of momentum that creates change in communities. And as a United States Senator, we don't just get to do that for Louisiana, we get to do that for the whole country.
Man, I like you so much just because you're still a person. You're not a politician.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you can, be of the people when you're too much of a party, when you're too much of a politician.
I wouldn't even be, and this is the truth, there's no shot at the Democratic Party. I would be an independent if I thought that was a capacity to win, but we are trained to vote by DRR. And so the Democratic Party most aligns with the values that I have. And the only way you're going to change something is to be inside and push the table, right? I'm a man of faith, Charlamagne. For me, it is simple. Jesus lived the life among the people. If you want to be a leader that's going to really serve people, you got to be among the people. Now, you got to separate and do your thing to get your thoughts together. But if you really want to understand how do you transform people, we talking about a man 2,000 years later, whether you believe whatever you want to believe or not, his impact with people transformed the mentality of a whole generation of people.
That's right.
And so I set my model after that, and I'm going to always be among the people.
ChambersForLouisiana.com. That's it, right?
That's it.
ChambersForLouisiana.com. Go run that up, man. Go donate to Gary Chambers Jr. I'm definitely making a donation today.
That's right.
Thank y'all. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you for joining us.
And come back, man. You know what I mean? Like, when is the election?
November.
Yeah.
And it's a jungle primary. So for us, if we can get the other Democrats out, we can close it out then. If not, we got a runoff situation. We know that we have the capacity to stop him from getting to 51. We end up in a runoff. We're going to really need everybody to show up. But hopefully the other Democrats step aside and we can have a clear path to run this race.
ChambersForLouisiana.com. Go make a donation right now, man.
That's right. It's Gary Chambers Jr. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.